First, let me say I don't ever start off by saying how I'm going to pursue justice today. I start off the day, hopefully, when I do wake up, I try to wake up and say, look, what does it mean for me to love God with all my heart, soul, and strength today? And when I do that, the second greatest commandment, which is what, love your neighbor as yourself, suddenly that means that every person that I run into and everything that I encounter I have to look and realize that it's already in relationship to the creator of the universe. It just doesn't know it. And so for me, how do I pursue justice in everyday life? I think it's a matter of, one, keeping God first and foremost focused. And from there, if I'm loving God with all my heart, soul, mind, and strength, then I'm taking responsibility of that knowledge and then caring about that. Now, that's a big way of saying this. I think a lot of times we kind of live our lives separate spiritually. We consider like God's stuff over here and then the everyday stuff over here. I don't think that's real helpful, because all of life was created by God and for Him. So what that means for me is saying that the way I eat, hopefully I'm trying to pay attention to where I'm buying my food. That's about me paying attention to putting things in right relationship to an economic context. It's also in terms of a body context, that my body is the temple of the Holy Spirit. Hopefully I'm doing some things along those lines. I think in the everyday life, God has placed us all within a certain community. And so for me, I live in Pittsburgh on North St. Clair Street. Maria lives across the street from me. She's about 82 years of age. Across the street from her, I've got the Rowlands, and Becca and Andrew are experiencing their first child, and they got 2 wild, crazy dogs. Catty corner, 3 houses down, I got some of Bebe's kids. And these are Deshaun and a number of other children who, essentially, don't have many adults in their lives. So part of it is I live on a block. And what does it mean for me to be a good neighbor? And so I start at that place of looking at where is the place that God has placed me, and how do I pursue the relationships along those lines. God has given everybody a passion, and I think many times we live numb to that. So one of the questions I ask students sometimes, what do you feel so impassioned about that you're willing to go to battle for? For some people it might be sex trafficking. For some people it might be working in a holistic way down in Beaver Falls. For others it might be stewardship. They have a deep, profound understanding of the creation, how it works, and so they're trying to do stewardship along those lines. So I think one is, who has God made you uniquely to be? And then do something where there's a deep need in the world. Frederick Buechner said this, that like a kingdom sweet spot is where something that gives you deep gladness meets with something with a deep need in the world. And that's the sweet spot. And I think what we need to do is, look, what do you find deep gladness in? Or what really gets you, like, I could do this forever because I feel impassioned about this. And then do something. Actually do it. Don't talk about it. Get your butt off the couch and do it. So if you avail yourself to that, maybe you feel really impassioned about single moms. There's tons of single moms in your neighborhood. Most college students I know can start a babysitting co-op. And here's what you do. If you're pro-life, then be pro the single mom's life. Care for her kid so she can go out and go shopping without lugging along the kid, because she doesn't have some of the resources along those lines. If you're pro-life, care about the kids whose lives do get saved by not being aborted, and read to them after school. That's being pro-life. If you're being pro-life, maybe care about the guy on death row or the lives of people in prison, because Jesus says this, incidentally, that when you visited the prisoners, you actually were visiting me. And so I think that's another thing you can do. One of the things that has always struck me about Micah 6:8, it says, He has shown you what is good and what God desires of you. Actually, he doesn't say that. What Micah says is, He has shown you, O man, what is good and what the Lord requires of you. And I think sometimes we think justice is something that, well, God desires it, but you got some options. Just make sure your orthodoxy is good, and make sure you have the right answers for the test. The spiritual Bible 300 test that you're going to have once you get to heaven. No, actually, He requires us to do justice. He requires us to love, to be merciful, and He requires us to maintain humility and recognize Him. So I think that I love what this idea of people I know sometimes kick up a storm and say, why are we doing Justice Week? Like suddenly I'm supposed to care about justice. Actually, we're supposed to be awakened to this stuff all the time. And it's not that we just do it during this time. But to say, look, what does it mean to live out Micah 6:8? To really love to be merciful. Don't just be merciful, but love to show mercy. Let that be your character. Let that be your reputation. Like, man, those students at Geneva, those are some flippant people who love to be merciful. Now that would be a testimony. They love to show kindness.